Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about our Alibaba backhoe and a little bit about what I think about it, but more or less what has to be done about it. It's not exactly usable as of right now to its full potential, and that's because the seller kind of shorted me what would be called a rigid top point link. And to best describe it, I'll put in a screenshot of what a Woodmax, what they call their I-beam top link, looks like, and I'm going to show you right now on this backhoe what I'm talking about. So currently I'm using this with a standard tractor top link, and with that, what happens is this machine can actually pick itself up because I don't have pressure down on my 3-point system. Therefore, the 3-point floats up and down. You know, whatever position you set it at, it can go up, but it just can't go below that point. And that allows, whenever you're really bearing down, trying to put downward pressure on your backhoe, allows it to pick it up and down. And the seller shorted me on it, despite the fact that the manual they sent me showed that it would have that, and the fact that it says for 3-point rigid mount backhoes only mount. So despite those things, they shorted me, and I've got to address it before I could do any serious work. Oh, and if you missed it, this was because we have a steer that is kind of a goober, and he decided to try to eat that. He's more or less a goat. What else can I say about it? Oh, I don't like how these hoses are on top of this ram. It would be nicer if they were to the side or something, but whenever you pick up these outriggers, you must go slow, or else you could slam them into, yeah, I think right there's some sign of slamming it into it. You could slam it into this foot plate, kick plate, and I guess that's the side I've smashed the worst. But you could potentially cut a hose. It is what it is. But, you know, oh, and in shipping, this sight glass was cracked, so I do need to figure out, it leaks just a little bit, not a lot, but I do need to figure this out, what size thread this is, and look at getting it replaced before it becomes a problem, before it just, oh, that lock washer, I need to fix that. Lock washers, they really torqued that down, didn't they? But other than that, I haven't had any major issue. There does seem to be a little bit of a delay in this control. I believe it's for the bucket or the boom to do this. I believe that is delayed sometimes. Not really sure why. Or I kind of feel like maybe I'm just not pulling it hard enough to open up the valve. What we're having for dinner tonight. Oh, pork shoulder. So let me get the truck backed up and I'll bring you back to this. Alright, so that bar is 2 inches wide, so I've measured 2 1/4. Hopefully 2 1/4 will give me enough wastage on this cut to where it'll be just a little over 2 inches. We'll see. I guess I've got plenty of material, but I'll run out of clamping space because I'm working off the back of this truck. I don't want to necessarily melt this, so I don't know. I think 2 1/4 is plenty. Let's get this camera set up and do a cut. I need 2 of these. I'm gonna sandwich them together when it's all said and done with. I think I'm running about 7 psi on acetylene and 55 on oxygen. Let's see where that puts us. See how it does. Not a bad cut. Guys, I'll tell you this all the time. I do some cutting and some welding. I am not a professional. Obviously it didn't fall off there. There was a couple times it got really hot and kind of burned back into my material. It's not going to hurt me though. But I think a shop hammer and this guy's going to fall right off. Let me go get one. There was two little bitty pieces that were hanging up. Maybe I'm running too much PSI on my settling. Maybe next time I'll trim it in with just a little less, but there's a piece of 3/4 inch plate. I should probably measure this and see if it's going to do what I need to do before I cut another one. Just over 2 inches, which is exactly what I need. So, oh yeah, just barely over 2 inches. So pretty good, even cut. Now I just need to duplicate this. I'm not going to bore you with that. All right, there's both of them cut out. They're real similar. I think the second one is slightly wider, but it's also really hot right now. So I don't think it'd be wise to measure anything as hot as it is. I don't know how it would be wider. Besides maybe my tuning and my torch could make a difference because it's the exact same measurement. But I think we'll let it cool before we come to any conclusion on that. Alright, so I'm not going to fight this anymore. This low spot right here is actually my first cut on the first piece, and that's where the metal started getting pretty hot on me and I was gouging it. So if you actually look at it, it's flush, 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 and then gets a little low right here, and then it's flush again. So I'm not going to fight this any longer. I'm going to accept it where it's at. Really, the spot I need to flush up is the ends now. may be able to just go ahead and punch all the way through to the other side and have a pilot from the other side if I stay square enough. Alright, that hole looks pretty good to me. Now we're ready to, this will be, you know, that bit's not even that hot. It's because that steel's so thick it actually like seemingly cools the bit. But this thing will actually get pretty dang warm. I know that from experience. Ooh, don't want to go backwards. Never want to go backwards with a bit or a hole saw. There's a slug. Guys, that's just an average hole saw. Not carbide cutters. It's just a regular hole saw that, you know, electricians would use to knock out like 1/8 inch plate and stuff like that. It will cut this thick stuff. Trust me. I don't know how long that took, 5 minutes. But we've got a hole there. I'm gonna try to get this other one done and see how well they line up. Number 2. Hey guys, I got my measurements based off of the center of where the top link attaches to the tractor, the hole that I'm going to use. I got my centers off of that. So what I'm going to do is measure from the center of this hole back, and that'll be my first hole and my second hole. Alright, so there it is. 9 inches of hole, guys, cut with nothing more than that hole saw. Now, I ran into only one problem. I broke my pilot bit on this hole, so this one's about, it's a little bit off, because the second bit that I found had a little run out in it, and I couldn't get it to turn true. So we ended up off just a little bit there, but I found a new pilot bit on the last hole, and both of those are nearly perfect. I think what I'm going to do now is take it in the shop, and like on this low spot right here, I'm probably going to fill up some weld right along this line, bring it up a little more even, get this thing welded together. And then I think the next step will be to fit it up to the tractor and verify that these holes are 100% correct. Stay with me. I think that's sufficient for what I want to do. I'm not just going to immediately shut my welder off. I'm going to let it cool. Now, these welds are going to be ground off. I wasn't trying to get them perfect, but probably what I wouldn't mind showing you is how hot of a weld it put on such thick steel. This thing's not going to come apart. And then you also got to keep in mind it's going to have a bolt through both pieces of the iron, so it's going to be just fine. Alright guys, I got it mocked up to the tractor. I'm going to go put the finishing touches on it. As you can see, this is a rigid top point mount, meaning I've got a bolt through the equipment and the top link here. And here, that means that this cannot go anywhere or cannot pivot like this. In other words, if I push down on that bucket real hard, it's going to go into the tractor like this, and it's not going to allow the whole machine to be picked up. That's going to give it less jump and play when you're sitting in that operator seat. It's going to give you more power to the bucket, which means more work, and pretty much necessary for these 3-point backhoes. I've been using it with the standard top link, and this is the standard top link. So as you can see, if you only got one bolt through it, it pivots like this. But when you got a bolt here and a bolt here, it cannot. So basically, WoodMax is a comparable type of piece of equipment. I won't ever tell you that this is better than a WoodMax. You'd have to make that decision up on your own. Do you want to spend $8,000 on a WoodMax, or do you want to import one for around $3,500? Prices are going up to import. Who knows what it costs right now? Or I got one for sale right there that I'd sell you for $5,000 if you wanted it. You know, is it worth saving $3,000, or would you rather go to WoodMax? I don't know. That's a decision you'd have to make yourself. But this bar's $200 from WoodMax, and I'm going to save myself $200. There ain't nothing cheap about homesteading, and that means sourcing things as cheap as you can. It means building your own equipment, your own pieces, doing your own fabrication, your own mechanical work, and hopefully soon we'll be starting on a lot of pond work with this. But let's get this thing finished fabbed up, and we'll take you to a little bit of work with it. All right, so there's the bar finished. I'll let Rylan do some painting on it, and I think he set his forearm in it right there, and grabbed it right here when it was rolling off in the grass. But needless to say, it's functional. One thing I did stick to doing was I put some grade 8 washers right here and welded them on both sides. And mainly, like I said, previous video or footage, it serves to minimize the slop right here. So me and Levi are fixing to hook it up, and I'll show it to you once it's hooked up. Alright, so somewhere I've went wrong in my thinking, and my rigid top link is not going to work like I thought it would. So I'm going to have to go back and add those I-beam flat plate, you'd like to call it, because watch this. I can't have it scissoring like that. It's not doing its job if it moves. So that's all the way off. Let's pick up the outriggers. Yeah, see how it's willing to move? Like, it's just not gonna work for what I need. Alright, so this is the template I have cut out. What these are is I'm gonna gouge these out with the torch right here, and this is where on here these are going to get ground down, and this top plate is going to get welded in to the linkage bar. All right, and there's what I mean by blowing this out and notching it out, whatever you'd call it. I've got it centered up on that bar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it in and I'm going to fill this up, I'm going to try to burn a nice hot weld down in the bottom and just fill the hole up. I think it's going to give a pretty good weld. Alright, so I got it mocked up on there, burn a real good weld on each end, and you can see from the color change of that steel, it's getting burned in there hot. That's my first pass in the bottom of the holes, and I'm just going to keep making passes till I'm all the way up to the top. But it's getting good penetration. Alright, second pass. That third pass is going to cap them off, I believe. Okay, so it's undercut a little bit, which is not actually a good thing. But it does mean that the welder can weld very hot, because that's 1/2 inch thick steel, and it's welding into a big old thick pool of weld and down to that big old chunk of iron. So I'm okay with undercut on something like this. Okay, so there it is installed. It's not perfect, as you can see. Got a gap here and a gap here. I find with my lift arms in a fairly low position and putting the outriggers up and picking itself up as high as outriggers will. I marked the position of my 3-point so that I can get it the same in the future. But picking itself up with outriggers, I find it puts a pretty good bind on this, and I don't have all the banging around that I used to have. So it is doing something. Now I got 2 of them. Oh gosh. Leave the seat alone. Yeah. Here's the problem with the seat. Oh, is that the best grass right there? Is that the best grass underneath the machine? I'm glad I could be of service. I've got some work to do on it, with it down here. So I'm gonna come down here and get you set up on the pond. I cut down a bunch of limbs the other day, and now we're gonna get them removed from the pond using the thumb bucket.